The interesting chronology shows that in March of 2016, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Arkansas informed the FBI's Little Rock investigators. Again, as you point out, there are FBI investigations in Washington, D.C., and New York, and in Little Rock, which is where the Clintons, of course, lived for many years.
Right.
So it shows that in March of 16, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Arkansas informed the FBI's Little Rock investigators that then Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates ordered the federal prosecutors to shut it down, to quote, shut it down. This is new per your reporting in the Kash Patel release. So that's March of 2016, Little Rock FBI is being told to shut it down. Then we get to August of 2016. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York and the Eastern District of New York purportedly said that they would not support the investigation into the Clinton Foundation, according to this timeline. No explanation was given. That's August of 2016. In June of 2016, so in between the bad news to the Little Rock investigators that came in March, and the bad news unleashed by SDNY and EDNY in August of 2016, so in June of 16 was the Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch meeting on the tarmac. We covered that on Fox News. It was such a big deal. Everyone knew something happened on board that airplane where they just happened to meet. That was the story they wanted us to believe, that the planes just happened to land at the same place at the same time in Phoenix. And they claimed they did not discuss anything. They didn't discuss any DOJ investigation, nothing. But they never had problems again after that, as according to this timeline, John, with the Clinton Foundation investigation.
Yeah, you got it right. And listen, this is something I've been saying for a long time. If you remember 5 years ago, I was on Fox and helping people understand the Uranium One investigation. The Uranium One investigation was one of the allegations that this set of corruption probes were predicated on, that a transaction was allowed to go, American and North American-owned uranium was allowed to go to Rosatom and Vladimir Putin's uranium agency around the time that large transfers of money went to the Clinton Foundation, and Hillary Clinton's State Department is one of the approval points in that thing. That's one of the predications that they were looking at the time. That detail was in the FBI's hands, but it wasn't in the public's hands yet. And there's a confidential human source that is assisting that part of the investigation. You'll see in the timeline, there's a mention of a CHS, confidential human source. So that's going on, and it's heating up. And I've always argued that I don't believe the Tarmac meeting could have been about the email investigation, because Hillary Clinton's lawyers knew by mid-June that the FBI was shutting down the email case, that it was going to be a recommendation of no prosecution, and they weren't worried about it anymore. I know that for certain as a reporter who was talking to Hillary Clinton's legal team. They knew in mid to late June that they were out of peril. We didn't know yet. We didn't know till July 5th, but they knew. They also knew that Little Rock was bubbling up on a corruption investigation. And I think the more likely thing that we all ought to be focusing on is, did that come up in the meeting? Was there any mention of the foundation? And two, was some of the concern about the emails on Hillary Clinton servers not the classified information, but what might have been chronicled about what the secretary was dealing with that had relationships to donors at the Clinton Foundation? I think that is a very significant question that the FBI was trying to get to the bottom of and didn't. And I'm going to remind you of one thing we learned from Tulsi. A few weeks ago, we learned that there are 5 thumb drives of evidence in the Hillary Clinton email investigation that were never looked at. That is the explosive annex that got released with the help of Chuck Grassley, with the help of the president. At my request, I made the request to the president. No one has ever exploited what is on those 5 thumb drives, and we ought to now all be pressing to get that information. I've already filed a Freedom of Information Act request. 5 thumb drives. Maybe there's some evidence on those thumb drives that would relate either to classified documents or to the Clinton Foundation case. And I think that is a place now that if the Justice Department revives all of this information, that's a strong place that they're likely to start.
I just can't get over the contrast. They raided Melania Trump's underwear drawer. They searched Barron Trump's personals down at Mar-a-Lago. They uncovered every stone in an effort to get Trump, this FBI, Biden's FBI and DOJ, and actually did bring criminal charges against him, the Democrats did, in 4 different jurisdictions. But with this, at every turn, John, they worked to dismiss evidence, to when they found it, simply look the other way. When they might have been getting close to indicting, been told no by the deputy attorney general or the attorney general herself, not interested. It won't go, quote, too far. I mean, the double standard when it comes to a Clinton and a Biden on the one hand versus a man named Donald Trump on the other is shocking. And the dismissal of any evidence that downplayed their narrative on Putin's trying to help Trump, right? Like they had so much telling them that is bullshit. He actually didn't care who won the election. They worked so hard to dismiss the evidence that helped Trump and to play up the obvious false evidence like Christopher Steele dossier that would impugn Trump. But meanwhile, you've got 3 different FBI agents all driving toward the same conclusion, which is the sitting Secretary of State is corrupt. She is doing pay to play. You can only get access to her as the Secretary of State if you donate to her corrupt Clinton Foundation. And it gets shut down. It's the opposite. It's literally a 180 from what they did to Donald Trump.
Yeah, listen, the way you opened your show, there's no better description of what the conspiracy is. It's a conspiracy to protect potential Democrats from potential criminal prosecution and then to violate the civil liberties and privacy and reputations of innocent Republicans to create an alternate story to protect political interest, meaning what's going to happen in the election. That's what it is. It's not more complicated. And I know people say, oh, a conspiracy case is going to be complicated. No, it's really not. We protected Democrats. And the cycle is Hillary has 2 problems. Email, now corruption. We can prove that was active at the time. Hunter Biden's got corruption and taxes. And by the way, the first evidence of that comes in March through May of 2016. And then 2019, it's Hunter Biden a lot more. And so we impeached the president and we have the government actually creating stories that I think we will prove were false. And then in 21, they find Joe Biden's classified documents at UPenn office in Washington and his garage. And they got to make Donald Trump look like he's the classified guy first, before they can let the cat out of the bag that Joe Biden has the same problem. It's a wash, rinse, and repeat cycle. And in the course of that, 2 potential crimes are occurring. Obstruction of legitimate investigations. Those are overt acts of a conspiracy. And then the violation of innocent people's civil liberties to create a political ruse. That is where I believe the grand conspiracy case is headed. I believe that there are multiple grand juries that have begun work around this country in multiple jurisdictions outside of Washington where evidence is now being gathered.
You do? You
I do.
Can report that, or you have reason to believe that?
Nope, I have confirmed witnesses and who've had contact with the grand jury. So there are grand jurors in multiple locations. Some of those are in Virginia. I believe one is going to begin based on early discussions in Pennsylvania. There may be one in New York. And so the activity has begun. And the question now is, and those are probably not going to be the indicting locations. I think the more likely thing is you use multiple grand juries just to make it easy to gather lots of information quickly. That's the way strike forces work. And then you keep working from there. But there are multiple locations where pieces of this are being looked at. And maybe the grand jurors don't even know it's a grand conspiracy, just looking at some of the overt acts in one of these chapters of this sad story. But that is going on. And I think it's going to be a process, right? It's going to be a 6-month process. I don't know the reason yet. I wish I knew. I don't know the reason. I mean, there's lots. It could be related to the 2020 election.
Yeah, that's where my mind went.
Yeah. So we don't know yet. I just know that certain witnesses have been contacted about acceptance of grand jury subpoenas, and they're in different locations. So the process is beginning, but it's a long process. And, we won't know a lot about if the Justice Department does the right thing. Unlike the Obama and Biden Justice Departments that leaked anything, the grand jury process will be unbelievably secret and will be masked from it because that's the way the process is supposed to work. In the meantime, we have an opportunity through the Freedom of Information Act and through our perches as reporters to go out and try to get the story for the American people so they can understand why this is going on. The Democrats who didn't care about going after a president when it was the Republican are going to start crying, this is payback, this is retribution. We need Americans to understand it's not payback and retribution. There are legitimate legal questions here.
I mean, all that comes to mind in response to that is, as Socrates or Aristotle might have put it, suck it. I couldn't care less. Like, too bad. What they have done, truly, they must be punished. They must have skin in the game, real skin in the game, or they really will, A, just have gotten away with it, and B, do it again. So what do we think the effect of the sparring between President Donald Trump and the Fed is going to be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time? Do we trust in that? Or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown as they slow roll any of their moves as they worry about his tariffs? And what exactly does all of this mean for your savings? You might want to consider diversifying right about now with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep it in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898, and you'll start the process of just getting the 411 on what it means to own gold. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead of the curve for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.